What about escalation?
Escalation.
We start carrying semi-automatics, they carry automatics. We buy Kevlar, and you're wearing a mask and jumping from rooftops. And then, take this guy. Double homicide, armed robbery, got a taste for the theatrical, like you. Leaves a calling card.
That's an umbrella.
I know. Escalation.
I don't really see how finding an umbrella at a crime scene has anything to do with escalation.
I'm just saying that you go around dressed as a bat. And now there's a guy going around acting like some kind of penguin.
So you have surveillance footage of the robbery, and the guy is acting like some kind of penguin.
Well, we don't have any footage.
Then how the hell do you know he's going around acting like some kind of penguin?
I never thanked you.
Yeah, shut up about that for a second. How do you know there's a guy going around acting like a penguin?
The umbrella?
I see. Well, I've got to get going.
Okay, so you don't see the umbrella as a problem. Well, what about this?
A plastic baggie with a little water in it.
Well, actually it used to be an ice cube. It kind of melted.
Uh-huh. Look, it's getting late.
Well, what about this?
What, this is a cat. What is it, a witness or something?
It's escalation.
So you found an umbrella, an ice cube, and a cat at separate crime scenes, and you somehow think it means that I'm influencing the criminals of Gotham in some weird way.
We also found a weird-looking top hat at one of the scenes.
Okay, I'm going.
I never thanked you.
Yeah, don't bother.
Can someone go ahead and kill that, please? Stop the track.
Nerdtopia, yo, and we got a funny podcast. Cruising in the speeder, bullseye, and flipping womp rats. Comics, video games, movies, real-life superheroes is what you can expect if you're wired to be weirdo. So we welcome all the newbies and the goofies, flashing boobies in the movies without cooties. And the show has got you drooling with this company, no fooling. Now presenting you your hosts is Steven or Cooking Doolin. Word, NerdtopiaCast.blogspot.com, Facebook.com/NerdtopiaCast, also YouTube and podcast. 38 seconds.
What's up, Nerdtopia? This is Doolin Dalton.
And this is me speaking dramatically, like something bad's about to happen.
Welcome to NerdtopiaCast.
You can't do the entire show like that. I'll bet you $5 right now you cannot do the entire show.
Who are you? I'm Bruce Wayne. Fuck.
Damn it! Randy!
This is NerdtopiaCast, guys, and today we thought it would be a good idea to talk about...
No, Batisode!
Yeah, we're going to do a Batisode, man. We're going to talk about Dark Knight Rises, but more importantly, man, before we get to us getting to the meat of it, and this is going to be a spoilerific episode, so, and we'll warn you before the spoilers are coming.
Or maybe we won't.
Or maybe we won't, but at any rate,
It's our show.
It's
our show. You're not the boss of us.
But be forewarned, guys. Spoilers lay ahead. We are going to talk about the Dark Knight Rises today, but we're also going to talk a little bit about just the Dark Knight in general and Batman and kind of our experiences growing up with him.
Yeah.
So man. So this is it. Steve, what were your some of your experience like? How old were you when you were first introduced to Batman? Were you at a party or something?
Yeah,
like, hey,
no,
I
I turned 30 this year, 29. No, I first started watching Batman stuff with the original Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
That predates the animated series, right? The original Keaton Batman.
Of the 89.
Yeah.
Because I think they did the animated series, which kind of came on the heels of Batman Returns.
I actually completely forgot about this until just now. So I watched that, and the first magazine I ever got, and really the only reading I've ever done in my life, and this is a bit heady, so it's a bit of a pull, so I don't expect everybody to understand what I'm talking about here. There was this great publication that was done. It was basically like a Reader's Digest for kids my age.
Okay.
At the time.
So
it was
for 29-year-old guys?
No. For children when I was coming of youth. It was this. It was so well done. It was a book called Disney Adventures, and it came out once every month, and it was basically stories about just I don't know, Disney Adventures.
Okay,
But it was like, hey, you know, this is what's going on in the world. It was like People Magazine for kids at that point. It was pretty all-encompassing. And,
Yeah.
you know, Disney didn't have Marvel at that point, but so they weren't in the comic book business, but they would talk about
Disney was struggling back then.
Yes.
They didn't have Marvel. They
No.
I don't know how they got by. Really.
So I was so obsessed with going to see Batman Returns
Mhm.
and hearing about the
It's
Penguin.
like 91, 92. It had to be like 1992.
I actually wrote a letter to Disney Adventures begging them for spoilers. I kid you not. No. I wrote it, and it was something along the lines of, I remember asking them, said, "Dear Disney Adventures, can you provide any more details on this summer's hottest movie, Batman Returns?" Like, it was written like some
They
kind
were
of
like, "This is Warner Brothers. Fuck you."
It's like, this was written by a 30-year-old man. Because it was so like, please just give me anything you have on Batman. So that was like my original kind of getting into Batman. That was the impetus, the lore. I didn't really even read the comic books or anything before that. I did spend a little time, like I was a Nick at Night kid too, so I watched a lot of the Batman TV show when they were playing that for the short period of
Oh
time.
yeah.
But other than that was my initial exposure to the big bad.
Yeah, for me, I think it was the original like 60 series. You know, watching the reruns of it when I was a kid. You know, it was just so. For me back then, it was so awesome to like to watch that show. And you know, you get older, you watch it, and you're like, this show is a piece of shit. It's so fucking campy. And now the funny thing is, though, Steve, like you go back and like the clips up there are on YouTube and stuff like that. You go back and you watch it now, and you see like Adam West's performance, and you're like, this dude knew what he was making, man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He I mean, he was very tongue-in-cheek. He wasn't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And, you know, and now it's kind of weird because I went through phases where, you know, it was awesome, then it was stupid, and now it's kind of awesome again.
Yeah.
Because of, because of how... That was a comedic role for Adam West, I think, man, and he hammed it up, and it was brilliant acting on his part. So that was kind of my first foray into that, and then of course, you know, the movies came out, you know, circa 1989. You know, I think I was about 7 or 8 years old when that came around, and then I remember when Batman Returns came out. Man, that was huge. That was That was like the summer of the bat, man.
Yeah, I still think. I mean, you know, we've discussed this. You've got some. You've kind of lost some magic for you over time.
I don't like any of the original franchise movies anymore. I don't think, because one with Nolan's films, like the bar's just been set. The bar's been set up here.
But Walken was in too.
I know, but you know, honestly, I didn't even like Walken back then. It took me a long time to warm up to Walken. I didn't care for him. I didn't. It was weird. It was so weird. But you derailed me. You do that.
Sorry.
That's all right.
That's my job. It's like I'm the show derailer. Like, it's on my business card.
Yeah, but you know, going back looking at it, like it's almost to me, it's almost as campy as the '60s series. I mean,
Really?
like, well, you got shit like, you know, in Batman Returns where, you know, he's taking on the Red Triangle Circus Gang, and he's fighting these, like, you know, ninja flipping clowns, and like dude Joe, and then like the strong man steps out of the alley. He's like, "Come on, hit me!" And then Batman hits him, and the guy's like, "Is that all you got?" And he looks down. He's got a freaking time bomb strapped to his chest. That Batman.
See, that's
Well, like, think about, man, the Bat doesn't strap time bombs to people.
Well,
that ain't cool.
But still,
he's like, and then in that vein, he's like, "Oh, I don't kill people. Oh, let me just shove a time bomb on this guy and throw him down a well."
Well, he didn't. It was a force blast, and he just kind of rolled backwards for a while.
I know a time bomb when I see him. He
you?
had a little clock on it and everything.
Okay. Was it one of those with like the two bells on the side?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right, fair enough.
And so it was just, and then you had, like, you know, mind-controlled penguins shooting missiles off and stuff like that, and it just went campier from there. So for me, I think, like, going back looking at that, I say, you know what? I can appreciate it for what it was, because we hadn't really been given a different, kind of a darker, grittier Batman at that point as far as the screen. So that was the first foray into it, but it just wasn't, looking back on it, it's just very campy to me now.
Yeah, but I mean, I think everything has there's a foundation set for everything. You know, I don't think we could have the Batmans we have today if we didn't have that interpretation, because that kind of tried to define a line. And I think when you go back, you can see where it was darker. You know, the points where, especially Batman Returns. I mean, it had some really dark moments to it.
It did, but it was cartoon dark. You know what I mean? It was very cartoony.
Yeah, and and Nolan kind of extracted the cartoon out of it.
Yes, and you know, and I love that, man. But then, coming up after Batman Returns, we won't even go to the third and fourth movies because it's pretty well documented, the fanboy hatred of that. Yeah. I'm not here to hate on the movies, man. I'm not. I mean, I didn't care for them. I don't know really anybody who did. 3 kind of had its cool points. 4 was fourth movie in the series. And
yeah.
That's about all I'll say about it.
Yeah.
But then coming on the heels of Batman Returns, they did Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
And that was really, I think, kind of groundbreaking for Batman in that they kind of added some depth to the characters in there. I mean, depth that you hadn't seen. Like, if you didn't read the comic books, you hadn't really seen depth in Bruce Wayne and depth in Dick Grayson and Alfred. You didn't see any character development really in those movies.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of like,
Batman.
I put on a cape one day. I went around beating and punching the fuck out of people.
I'm Batman over here. Hey, come on. Hey, Batman, look at me.
Vinny Barbarino.
Yeah. Hey. No, listen. I gotta tell you, I am Batman. It's amazing, really. That's
Christopher Walken.
When you think of a bat, and that I'm a bat, it's incredible, really.
Amazing, sir.
Yeah.
Good
job.
Thank
you.
So,
thank you.
So it's kind of cool to see what they created characters for the show that made its way into the mainstream comics. Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
She didn't exist prior to that, and they made that. And she was just such a popular character. They're like, let's put her in the comic books.
Hey, serious. All right, level with me. Earmuffs, Jennifer. Earmuffs.
Yes, I would.
Oh man,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, she'd
like,
probably kill you. She'd probably kill you at the end of it.
But there's that kind of like
naughty. It's very naughty.
Oh my god! And then if you see her in the Arkham City.
Oh yeah.
Not so much as, but like how it's kind of like she just walks that line between so well.
It would be both the best. Let me try that again. It would be both the best and the last night of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. Because she'd kill you at the end of it.
Oh, she would. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this. The Joker to me is the. Oh God, I'm going out on a limb, but I will go ahead and say he to me is the greatest villain in any comic series I've ever read. Luthor's up there. There's certainly a place for Thanos and people, but to me, like, the Joker is the most well-written villain, I think, of any comic series, bar none.
Well, he's deliciously unpredictable.
Right.
That's the best way. I mean, you've got the world's greatest detective who cannot predict his next move ever.
But I'm going to go ahead and do one better and say the development that they've done with Harley Quinn is it really might be second to just the Joker for me. Mm-hmm. And that was a invention for the animated series.
Yes.
She wasn't in the book. It's like, we're gonna invent her, and oh my God, just everything about it, about her storyline.
And they did that over the years, like, because they didn't want to just dwell on like all the classics, like, I mean, because that show ran for a number of years, and even after it was canceled, kind of lived on through other mediums, because you had set in that same universe, you had Batman Beyond and Justice League. That all kind of happened because you had the Kevin Conroy doing the voice as Batman for those series, and it so that character still kind of lived on even after that series was canceled. So they had a lot of original content that they brought to the table in that show, which was just amazing because most of that made its way into the comic books due to the popularity of the series. One of the things that I liked that they did with it was they went back in one episode and they added an element to Bruce's origin story.
Yeah.
Now, in this episode, I don't know if you remember watching this or not, it was called The Gray Ghost. And what the opening sequence, if I remember it properly, is young Bruce Wayne. He's a little kid, and he's watching TV with his dad, obviously before the murder, and he's watching this superhero TV show called The Gray Ghost. Now, years later, after he becomes Batman, he's out fighting his mom, doing what he's doing, and the actor that played the Gray Ghost, which apparently was his inspiration to become the Batman, gets kind of mixed up in it. And Batman, at this point, is he's taken the actor into the Batcave.
Okay.
And
having a Danny Tanner moment with him.
He's having as much as Batman can, because he was always very, he's very, heart of gold but very rough exterior.
Yeah.
So having a Danny Tanner moment in only the way that Batman can, but I think you're going to recognize who they're kind of honoring in the Grey Ghost. Go ahead, and we got a couple clips from the show. Go ahead.
Michelle, I don't know how to say this. Your Uncle Joey and Uncle Jesse love you.
I'm sorry, that's not
They
the
love
show.
each other.
All right, I'm gonna play it. All right, here's the clip.
As a kid, I used to watch you with my father. The Great Ghost was my hero.
So it wasn't all for nothing.
All right, so that's a little bit of the Grey Ghost. I think you recognize the voice of the Grey Ghost, the actor who did that. That was obviously Adam West, and so
Still getting work, old chum.
So they actually the actor ends up later in the episode donning his Grey Ghost costume. And he's kind of an old man at that point, but he fights side by side with Batman later in that. It's a very, very cool moment because they play like the theme song of the Grey Ghost and everything. It's kind of Batman. I mean, he's living out a childhood fantasy, and all this stuff that happens kind of revives this has-been actor's his career. And so Batman's coming back, and he's at a book signing. The actor who plays the Grey Ghost, he's at a book signing, and Bruce Wayne makes an appearance and says a little word to the actor.
Please make it out to Bruce.
There you go, Bruce.
Thanks, Mr. Trent. You know, as a kid, I used to watch you with my father. The Great Ghost was my hero.
Really?
And he still is.
That little Full House moment with Batman. But I always thought that was always one of the coolest things, and that was the episode that got my dad kind of hooked on the show, because my dad grew up with Adam West, so then it kind of became like an after-school thing, every day, 3:30. My dad would have been home for about, half an hour at that point. He'd sit down and watch an episode of Batman with me.
You'd be badass is if your dad actually really did grow up with Adam West, and like every day after school, did you do your homework, Doolin?
Yes, Adam. I did my homework. Thank you, Uncle Adam. Hey, what do we have?
Tell me about your multiplication tables. Where are you hiding them?
I don't really. I'm not hiding them. They're right here. I mean, I did them already.
This looks fake.
I don't know why you're interrogating me.
I don't know either. I can't control the inflection of my voice.
So yeah, I watched that, and I didn't really find my way into the comic books till a little bit later. I was a little bit older when I finally did, so I didn't read a lot of the Batman comic books. I say that I grew up reading comic books when I was a kid, but I was really always more of a Marvel kid.
Yeah,
I was more of a kind of a Marvel guy. But I do remember reading Death in the Family, which was the death of Dick Grayson, which kind of was very dark and gritty, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not Death of Dick Grayson. I'm going to get mobbed by fanboys. I'm sorry, Jason Todd.
Attack!
Yeah, no.
Get him!
Death of Jason Todd. And so I read that, and then in 1988, so this is like the year right before Tim Burton's Batman original came out, there was a comic book written called The Killing Joke. Are you familiar with this?
I'm familiar. All right, so this is one of those things, like there are movies everybody has that they've never made the time to see, and they have to. I realize how important it is for me to read The Killing Joke.
Yes.
But I have not had time to. First of all, I don't read. I was 24 before I learned before I was hooked on phonics. So I don't really believe in it. But since I'm trying to learn to spell and better myself. I'm getting back into. I actually checked out 3 Batman. I checked out Batman book by Neil Gaiman.
Mm-hmm. Gaiman.
Yeah, another one by
Gaiman.
I don't know what you're trying to tell me, Robin.
I have ways of making you talk.
Let's see all of them.
Okay.
So I checked out 3. I checked out 3 from my local library. That's another thing. All right, here's a pro tip. I just found this out. I'm really proud of myself because it's like this is something that took me 30 years to discover. I think anything that takes you 30 years to discover, you should be proud of yourself for.
Sure.
the library has graphic novels.
Yes.
I didn't know that until the other day.
I came up here and the first thing you're like, dude, there's graphic novels at the library. I'm like, I know. That's where I've read most of my graphic novels.
Also, antibiotics can cure disease. I don't know if you're aware of
We
this.
landed on the moon!
2 for 1 at Target. So, like, this was a huge discovery to me, and so I, completely flipped out. So I went kind of batshit, for lack of a better term, and checked out 3 Batman graphic novels. I haven't gotten a chance to read them because I just read them, got them yesterday or the day before or something. I don't know. The days are running together. So I'm waiting on The Killing Joke. I'm gonna put it on the hold list. That's gonna be my next thing to read.
Well, I hate to do it, but we're gonna spoil
Still,
it.
It's fine. That's fine. I've had 30 years to read.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. Well, it's written by Alan Moore. In case you didn't know, who is wrote The Watchmen.
Right.
Wrote V for Vendetta.
Right.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Yeah.
So he's known. I mean, he's well-known comic book writer. And this actually went into the mainstream category because it's the episode where it's the comic book graphic novel where Barbara Gordon becomes paralyzed.
Well, if it has honestly, if it lives up, and I'm sure it lives up to the hype, that Alan Moore does with all his other stuff, I could read this book by Al and more.
Hey-o.
I had to pull for that.
Yeah,
but it had to be done. It was there. All right.
But let me give you a little bit of background here because what's going on in The Killing Joke is, and spoilers if you haven't read it, came out in '88, people. So it's spoilers, but it's like 25 years ago. So,
yeah.
But Alan Moore actually portrays the Joker. Yes, he portrays him as sick and twisted and evil, but there's also that element of a very tragic figure to the Joker, and I didn't think that anybody could write him as a tragic figure.
Sure.
Alan Moore does it.
Yeah.
Throughout the course, the first thing he does is he kidnaps Barbara Gordon, and she's paralyzed, and then when Commissioner Gordon comes looking for her, he kidnaps him and is making him watch these videos of Barbara Gordon being raped and tortured and his own daughter, and so he's trying to drive Commissioner Gordon insane. The point he makes to prove here is that anybody can go insane as he once did. Now, throughout the course of it, you're seeing flashbacks, and they're revealing the Joker's origin, or a possible origin, because he even says sometimes he remembers it one way, sometimes he remembers it another way, but no matter what happened, if this is his origin, if it isn't, one day, the man who became the Joker had a really, really bad day, and he became insane, and so... This is one of the. This is going to run kind of long. This scene happens. While Batman is coming to rescue Barbara Gordon and Commissioner Gordon, and he's running through Joker's funhouse with his death traps and stuff. And Joker has a PA system, and he's monologuing. And it's this is an interpretation of that performance that I found on YouTube. So it's a monologue, but just very, very tragic. Like you can see the pain, you can see and hear the pain in his voice.
I can hear it in your eyes.
Oh, Joker, someone has hurt you. Who hurt you, Joker? So
Show me on the doll where the man hurt you.
So this is gonna run a little bit longer. Sorry, we got kitties. This is gonna run
very passionate apparently about this story.
Yeah. It's going to run a little bit longer than we usually do, but I feel like it's important because for me, this is what really got me into Batman.
So, I see you received the free ticket I sent you. I'm glad. I did so want you to be here. You see, it doesn't matter if you catch me and send me back to the asylum. Gordon's been driven mad. I've proved my point. I've demonstrated that there's no difference between me and everyone else. All it takes is one bad day to reduce the sanest man alive to lunacy. That's how far the world is from where I am. Just one bad day. You had a bad day once. Am I right? I know I am. Why else would you dress up as a flying rat? Had a bad day, and it drove you as crazy as everybody else. Only you won't admit it. You have to keep pretending that life makes sense, that there's some point to all this struggling. God, you make me want to puke. I mean, what is it with you? What made you what you are? Girlfriend killed by the mob, maybe? Brother carved up by some mugger? Something like that, I bet. Something like that. Something like that happened to me, you know. I'm not exactly sure what it was. Sometimes I remember it one way, sometimes another. If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice. My point is, I went crazy. When I saw what a black, awful joke the world was, I went crazy as a coot. I admit it. Why can't you? I mean, you're not unintelligent. You must see the reality of the situation. Do you know how many times you've come close to World War III over a flock of geese on a computer screen? Do you know what triggered the last World War? An argument over how many telegraph poles Germany owed its War Department creditors. Telegraph poles! It's all a joke. Everything anybody ever valued or struggled for, it's all a monstrous demented gag. So why can't you see the funny side? Why aren't you laughing?
So that's a bit of the writing that Alan Moore kind of brought to the table with the Joker, and it's powerful, man. I know we try to stick to the funny or whatever, but I appreciate that, and that was I read
makes
that.
a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is me talking about a homicidal maniac, about
Yes.
how really
We
fickle-
we have an established order that we put up there, and we're civilized people.
It's
but
basically
are we really?
He's basically saying everybody's priorities are fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, and
And-
Alan Moore is kind of known for that, and
Yeah.
some of his, V for Vendetta is definitely.
Is that him?
Yeah.
All right.
So he's kind of known for that, for kind of holding the mirror up to society. So there's really nobody better to have written for the Joker. Now, during that very that intense monologue, obviously Batman hears the whole thing, makes it through Joker's death traps, and he reached Batman on a level, and this was kind of cool because this is I have to say, out of all the moments of the Batman-Joker relationship, this is the only one where it was the most interesting out of all of them. Out of all the exchanges they've had over the years, this one was the coolest, and it also is the most heartfelt, where Batman kind of reaches out to him.
Yeah.
Kind of sees the tragic flaw in the Joker's character and says, let me help you, and you'll see the Joker actually. The insanity clicks off for just a brief moment.
Yeah.
And then one of those it is too late for me, my son from Darth Vader kind of things.
Yeah.
And then he tells Batman a joke, not like a sick or twisted thing. He just tells Batman a joke, and the two share a laugh, and it's kind of a cool moment. And even after everything he did, so this is Batman once again runs a little long. He's caught the Joker at this point, and they're having a back and forth.
What are you waiting for? I shot a defenseless girl. I terrorized an old man. Why don't you kick the hell out of me and get a standing ovation from the public gallery?
Because I'm doing this one by the book. And because I don't want to. Do you understand? I don't want to hurt you. I don't want either of us to end up killing the other. But we're both running out of alternatives. And we both know it. Maybe it all hinges on tonight. Maybe this is our last chance to sort this bloody mess out. If you don't take it, then we're locked onto a suicide course. Both of us. To the death. It doesn't have to end like that. I don't know what it was that bent your life out of shape, but who knows? Maybe I've been there too. Maybe I can help. We could work together. I could rehabilitate you. You needn't be out there on the edge anymore. You needn't be alone. We don't have to kill each other. What do you say?
No. I'm sorry, but... No. It's too late. Far too late. You know, it's funny. This situation, it reminds me of a joke. See, there were these two guys in a lunatic asylum, and one night they decide they don't like living in an asylum anymore. They decide they're going to escape. So, they get up onto the roof, and there, just across the narrow gap, they see the rooftops of the town, stretching away in the moonlight, stretching away to freedom. Now the first guy, he jumps right across with no problem. But his friend, daring to make believe. You see, he's afraid of falling. So then the first guy has an idea. He says, "Hey, I have my flashlight with me. I'll shine it across the gap between the buildings. You can just walk along the beam and join me." But the second guy just shakes his head. He says, "What do you think I am, crazy? You turned it off and I was halfway across." Oh, do excuse me.
So Joker finally got a laugh out of it.
Evil laugh.
Yeah.
That was like
That's
that's some
amazing,
actor's
though.
interpretation, but
It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Though. I went back and I reread that scene like so many times, man. It was just a very, very powerful moment. The most well-written exchange between Batman and the Joker out of all the comic books that I've seen.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of good ones.
with the new 52 reboot, have you had a chance to see what they're doing with Joker's character?
I've not read it. No.
Have you heard anything about it? Like, have you heard the word?
Nope.
You haven't heard it?
Oh God.
You haven't heard the word?
No, Steve, I haven't heard the word.
Really?
Why
Seriously?
don't you share the word with me?
I thought everybody had heard this.
No.
Don't you know about the bird? Well, Peter's gonna tell you about the bird. Well, a bird. Surfing Oh my God, Peter, are you all right? Ba uma mau mau, 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 uma mau mau, ba uma mau mau, ba uma mau mau, ba uma mau mau, ba.
All right, so I'm over here talking about my my love for great comic books, and you know what? Let's talk about dick and farts.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's take it back down to that level, Steve.
Do not disappoint me.
I farted, Steve.
That was an
Isn't
armpit
that
fart.
funny?
It
Isn't
is.
that funny? I farted.
Well,
Damn it, sir.
We're talking about a little bit of mania, so I'm allowed to. If I had to be like my worst day ever.
Yeah.
And I turn into a supervillain. We always joked that Base Rap would be Lex Luthor. I mean, he would become the Overlord.
Yes.
I would definitely become the Joker. That would be Base Rap's bad day.
Uh-huh.
We can now abbreviate as BBD. Would turn me into something like that. That's the other thing too. Like, the Joker is hyper intelligent. Like, if you read some of the stuff,
He's a mastermind.
Well, yeah, but his machinations and his little traps and tricks and whatever are one thing, but like there's a corruption to his philosophy that works on some level. It makes him relatable, and I think that's why he holds up so well, because you don't want people to know that you kind of agree with some of the things that he's saying.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do this stuff, but it's like,
Well, you can agree with some of the ideals without agreeing with killing people.
I can see how you got from A to B.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think that's kind of the power of the character.
Yeah, and no one really kind of brought that to the table in Dark Knight, I think, which was
Which was the honestly top 5 all-time favorite movies. Period. It's in there for me.
I haven't ranked them, but I imagine it would be in there somewhere. And so, he really brought it to the table with Dark Knight, and everything he did with the franchise was amazing. Which brings us to Dark Knight Rises. Man.
Can we talk about the Dark Knight before we talk about Batman? Let's talk about Batman Begins first.
Okay, sure.
And then we'll talk about Dark Knight.
Sure,
and then
man.
if we have any time left, we'll cover Dark Knight Rises.
The whole point of this episode was to review Dark Knight Rises. Sir.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have differing opinions on this.
Okay, all right. There's we got to figure out a smart format to do this because I'm not a fighter.
We don't have to agree on everything, sir. Like I mean, it's funny because I go back and I listen to some of the old episodes and we go back and forth a lot. I'm like, I like this too. Okay, I agree. Let's move on. I like this too. You know, it's okay that we don't agree on everything.
Are you sure?
Yeah, like I don't really care about the word, Steve.
What word?
You didn't. The avian word.
I thought everybody knew about that.
I know about it. I just don't care, Steve.
Don't poop on my joke, please.
Moving on. So I think it's okay that we don't agree on everything. So if we have two different opposing views of Dark Knight Rises, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, let's move on.
Let's.
So Dark Knight Rises, or did you want to go back and talk about Batman Begins?
No. I was just kidding. We could talk about Dark Knight Rises. It was okay. It was, to me.
It's okay, really?
It was the weakest of the franchise.
All right, why don't you? All right, go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
The last 10-20 minutes, brilliant. I'll give it that.
And it's a strong ending, and that's what you really need, man. I mean, you end on a strong note. People are gonna. I mean, that's the aftertaste that you get when you leave the theater. It's not the. Well, it doesn't really. This part didn't make sense because that would never happen. John Blake wouldn't have known where to look for Commissioner Gordon. Oh yeah, sorry. Spoilers. We need to get a little.
Spoilers, old chum.
I'm just gonna say we need to get a spoiler alert alarm. So every time we're about to. Yeah, so spoilers lay ahead, guys. Here we go. So we haven't ruined it for you. We're gonna do it now.
Yeah, and we're gonna. I mean, to me, the last 20 minutes make the movie. There was some kind of in the entire time, because he hasn't abused it, and I still don't necessarily think it was an abuse of it, but I give Nolan license to play in this playground and do what he thinks is necessary.
Sure.
I did not like what he did with Bane. I didn't like, and Bane to me, I know that he had to make the character more interesting and more relevant.
Right.
I know that he wanted to put his own spin on it and didn't want to make it so cartoony. But I still think you could have done more with Bane, holding him closer to the roots, giving him some form of venom.
Why?
Why not?
Didn't need it. Didn't need to be
but
there.
That's his character.
He was a physical match for Batman. That was all that he needed to be.
Bane isn't a physical match for Batman. Bane is a physical overmatch for Batman.
Okay.
In the books, Batman has to, and okay, this is also kind of funny because I realized this. I was talking to Molly yesterday. I was playing Arkham City.
Okay.
And I kept dying.
In that?
No, but I kept dying. Not dying. I kept getting knocked out in this room where there was like 7 bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, Dad, what are you doing? And I said, I'm not, because I couldn't figure out why I couldn't beat it. I said, I stopped fighting like Batman. She said, what does that mean? I said, I stopped hunting and I started fighting. That was Batman. That was Batman and Bane's the whole thing. Batman could not take him straight up in combat. He had to hunt him. He had to figure out ways to use the darkness and the shadows, and I didn't feel like he did that in this movie. I wanted to see Batman.
Well, he tried. I mean, you saw the scene where he's taken on Bane for the first time, and he hits his little EMP button on his utility belt. The lights go out, and then he's like, okay, I can't take this guy out. One-on-one, he's too powerful for me. Let me meld into the shadows and start hunting him. Well, and then you hear Bane, who in the movie is also from the League of Shadows, and he's, theatricality and deception. You think the darkness is your ally, and then just whips around, boom, grabs him by the neck, like straight out of the darkness.
Yeah.
Darkness hunting him didn't do shit.
Yeah.
He was, in Bane in the comic books, did you ever read Nightfall where they introduced Bane?
No.
He was a mastermind.
Yeah.
He had the brawn, but he had the brains to match. So the first thing he did when he came to Gotham was he's like, this is Gotham's champion, I shall seek him out. stages the big jailbreak at Arkham, lets out all the supervillains. So Batman at this point in Nightfall is going around rounding up all the supervillains, and he is just physically exhausted by the time he reaches Bane.
Sure.
So I thought they kind of stayed true to that and made Bane a bit of a mastermind. If I have one grumble, and I have my biggest grief about the entire movie is the fact that they built him up to be the main villain, to be the mastermind, and then here we go, spoilers. Bam! It's Talia al Ghul. She was behind it the whole time. He's a hired gun, and then she dies like 5 minutes into being revealed that she's Talia.
And the cat. Oh my God.
That was my only complaint. The entire movie.
It was my problem. I have several issues.
Okay.
My problem. First of all, I did not like Marion Cotillard as Talia al Ghul.
You didn't?
No, I didn't one bit because
Why?
I didn't see because I wanted to see. It just didn't. It didn't fit. It was like when she had to make that shift from being some researcher philanthropist to being Talia al Ghul. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy her being Ra's al Ghul's daughter and carrying on the his philosophy.
The demon's daughter.
Yeah, I did not buy that one bit. And Talia is another one of the most interesting characters. The Batman women almost are almost written better than the Batman men. In those books, because Talia is a fascinating character, and she's a warrior, and you have to buy that when you see her. Did not buy it one bit. I thought I know that she's supposed to be somebody else the entire movie, and you're supposed to buy her as that, so you get set up with the punch.
Right.
But you have to buy her after too. You have to be able to think, okay, now I can see where they were going with this character. She could, you have to be able to think at the end of it, you could spin off a Talia al Ghul movie. I didn't buy that. The other thing about Bane being a mastermind, I didn't like him. You have Ra's al Ghul, who is, again, somebody who's so critical to the entire Batman, Batman history. One of the seminal villains.
Sure.
And it's such an awesome relationship that they can write about. And you're billing Bane higher than him, kind of, by saying, this guy was kicked out of the League of Shadows. Screw them.
That's the only thing that I don't like either. It's like he was kicked out of the League of Shadows for being too extreme.
Yeah.
Okay. They're a league of assassins that thrive on killing, death, and chaos. What's too extreme?
Exactly. And so you're going to have Batman essentially out-hunt, outsmart, outthink Ra's al Ghul. And you're going to have him completely foiled on the hunt by Bane? No sense. That made no sense to me. I thought what Dark Knight did well was it was an ensemble piece. I thought everybody's role had a place, and they played it to perfection. I hated the fact that Gary Oldman was used as a device. He was arguably, to me, in Dark Knight, like, you have Ledger, who's just catastrophic, like, so high above everybody else. And then kind of at that second tier, you have Aaron Eckhart, you have Christian Bale, you have Gary Oldman. And that kind of brought the entire level of the movie up. Because it wasn't so much, it was bigger than Batman. And that movie was supposed to be bigger than Batman, because it was showing Batman that things around him are bigger, right?
Right.
So I didn't like the fact that it seemed like the point of views were forced at points. They were like, we have to tell this, we have to go ahead and give you this kind of same scene of the kid in the pit and things like that over and over again to drill it into your head, because at the end we're going to reveal. It just seemed like the entire movie was built around that last 20 minutes. I have no complaints.
Well, that's Nolan's style, though, man. I mean, he always does that. Like he's been well stated saying he goes in knowing completely how he's going to lay out his ending, and then he railroads into that point.
Okay, and I get that to a degree. Watch Batman Begins.
Okay.
And judge it as a movie. Judge the entire run length.
Okay.
Watch Dark Knight. Judge it as a movie. Judge the entire run length. Judge the pacing. Judge how they took the scenes and put them together. What could they have cut? See, as a director, like the biggest job I think is you make tons of footage. They probably had hundreds of hours of footage.
Sure. Tons
of deleted scenes, and then you have to say, okay, this is filler. I need to cut this because this is more important. I have like a 2-hour frame. I need to fit it in. So that's a big piece of directing, editing, putting the story in place. I feel like the entire movie was a build for the last 20 minutes. The last 20 minutes were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there was just a lot of filler in there. They could have done a lot more.
We also have to think, for Christopher Nolan, though, this has been his baby since when Batman Begins come out, 2005, I think. So this has been his baby since 2005, and now he's finally putting it to bed.
Yeah.
And I feel like he wanted to make sure all of the character development was there and give people, like, don't just do like they fucking did in Tim Burton's movies and put a villain in there just for the sake of putting a villain in there. Let it be an integral part of the story.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like he did here. So everybody, like, who was in the movie had to have a reason for being there. So everybody needed to have their stories. Now, arguably, maybe it was a little much, but that 2 hours 45 minutes didn't feel like 2 hours 45 minutes.
Oh my God, it felt like 4 hours to me. Now the last 20 minutes, and I'll say this again, don't take this as this was a bad movie at all. I gave it an A-, but to me, I think that has a Batman bump built in.
Okay.
And without the last 20 minutes, to me it's a B. I think that, it's nowhere near the original Batman series, well above that. It's not, it's certainly not the later on Schumacher debacles. It's good, but to me, like I wanted a crescendo, and
I feel like they had it, man.
And I feel like they peaked in Dark Knight, and this was I wanted a crescendo movie. I wanted this to come together and play out loud, and I feel like this was a bookend.
You had a Gotham, you had the No Man's Land storyline, and their Gotham's completely closed off from civilization for months. You've got chaos in the streets, and Batman's, however far-fetched it may have been, Batman's, rise and return, and you had nuclear bomb, and then for brief moments, you thought you had the death of Batman, and that was a crescendo, man. Like and here's what it came down to me, man, and I rolled a tear where. Selena Kyle's like, run away with me. We can get out of here. You don't owe these people anything. You've given them everything. He's like, not everything. Not yet. And I was like, oh, man, there goes the fucking White Knight, man. That was brilliant. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean.
And he went out, and I speculated for a while that maybe Nolan to put this to bed so they didn't make any more movies. I had a feeling he was going to kill Batman. Which I wouldn't have been too terribly surprised. It would have been a ballsy move.
Yeah.
But it's
and I wouldn't have been mad at him either.
I wouldn't have been mad at him because that's his baby. He can do what he wants to with it as long as the fanboys are happy. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But I thought that they killed Batman. It turns out he faked his death. It's spoilers, but you should know that by now. They faked his death, but I felt that was the crescendo, man. That even though they brought him back, the fact that he laid down everything, even his own life, his company, his parents' namesake, everything he had for people that didn't even appreciate him, I felt like that was the crescendo of the movie.
To me, Dark Knight was a ballsy movie that should have won a Best Picture Oscar. To me, this movie tried to be ballsy, and because it tried to be ballsy, to me, I think it failed.
Well,
some of the performances in there, Michael Caine, it felt forced. I hate saying that. I love Michael Caine. Yeah, I think
you felt like he phoned it in?
Yeah, no, not. I mean, I don't feel like he phoned it in. I felt like he took direction and did, but I didn't feel it. Like I felt him in the first two movies. I didn't feel him in this movie.
Why do you hate Michael Caine?
I don't hate.
Why do you hate him?
Because he should have played this role the size of a tangerine. And he played it too big. He played it way too big. So like
he's the closest thing to a father that Bruce has.
Yeah.
And I felt like he brought that to the table with his performance.
I just think he overplayed it, man. I think he overplayed his hand. There was one part where he was openly weeping, and I get openly weeping, but
he hadn't done it in any of the three movies.
Yeah, but it just seemed like it didn't. I didn't buy that. It was like to me, it looked like somebody was like, openly weep. He was like, oh, gotcha. I just didn't like it. It didn't feel like anything to me. And I feel like too, they could have made that work. They could have made it work, but they didn't. They had too much going on almost. They had to focus on the storyline between Alfred and Bruce Wayne. They had to focus on the storyline between Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle. That also felt really forced. The entire romance felt forced there. They had to focus on Bane breaking out of prison. They had to focus on Bane being the emissary of the League of Shadows. They had to focus on John Blake and where he came from, which is also kind of weird. He's like, I know you're Batman. Really? Yeah, I kind of figured it out. It's not that hard.
It's like any fucking orphan kid knows, like, hey, there's a 7-year-old orphan girl at the door. She says she knows you're Batman because she's an orphan.
Yeah, he's like, we have heard nothing about him. But he walks in and he's like, listen, I got this. You're not keeping secrets from me. Like, you may have fooled everyone else in the known universe for 7 years. 8 years. For 8 years.
It's been longer than that.
Yeah. But you're not getting John Blake, orphan, okay? I got it. We're orphans. We had the orphan bond.
But you know what? It's as far-fetched as that is. Yeah, I mean, that was a bit out there. But that performance and his performance in that scene, I'm sitting there watching it. I'm going, I'm officially a fan of Joseph Gordon-Levitt as of this moment because of the scene he delivered in that, and because it was so well executed, and that scene was so well performed. I was like, I'll look past the fact that he just picked Bruce Wayne out of thin air. I was like, I know who you are.
That's the thing. I felt like I was doing that so much during that movie, being like, I can look past this. I can look past this.
But it wasn't an effort for me to try to look past it.
Okay, here's the other thing. The Batman, Selina Kyle, Bruce Wayne, Catwoman romance. Whatever. It felt like that they missed some... and I'm just coming off The Amazing Spider-Man, right?
Sure.
The energy in that movie was palpable between the two main characters. I felt like that relationship was forced. Like, I'm watching, it's like, I don't believe this. I want to, because number one, this to me, and I've said it from the very beginning, this was my Avengers. The Avengers was everybody else's Avengers. They were like, but this was my Avengers.
That was your summer popcorn movie with the action and the fun and the explosions, and like I said way back when we reviewed that, back in like episode 3 or 4, something like that, I think, I said that Avengers is a fun movie, Batman is the thinking man's superhero film.
And to me, it tried too hard. It just, I didn't... Morgan Freeman, afterthought.
Morgan Freeman was kind of an afterthought, but I feel like his story arc was kind of more through Dark Knight than anything else.
But it was kind of watery. Like, I would have rather them made it. It felt to me like they were taking too much movie and fitting it in. Cut some pieces.
Kind of like Spider-Man 3. Is that kind of your issue?
Well, Spider-Man 3 was overboard, and I'm of course I'm not an Academy Award winning director.
Did you want Bruce Wayne to dance in the movie?
No, not at all. I think it tried too hard to be something that it didn't have to be.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do
you think that you're just? I mean, it's cool. We can disagree on this because I think it was a great movie. But do you think that your dislike for the movie has something to do with your bitterness over the fact that you're gay?
Could.
I mean, okay.
It very well could.
Well, I mean, because we can agree. We can agree to disagree. That's fine. But you don't like Batman, so fuck you.
You okay?
No, I'm fine.
All right.
I'm fine.
No,
it's cool. No, we're friends.
I thought we were having a.
We are.
Some discourse.
No. We're fine. We're good. You're just a fucking asshole.
Okay.
No, man, but I think that on that note, as far as like the performances, when we were leaving the theater, Jen said it to me, and kind of the more I reflected on it, the more I kind of agreed with it. You had a lot of great actors turning in great performances with no real chemistry between the two, and that's why some of the romances might have felt forced to you. I think it's like I love Christian Bale. Love Anne Hathaway. There's no chemistry, and that's not something even great actors have a hard time finding chemistry because it's not always something that you can just find with another actor. Like I've performed for several years. There's been some people I've been on stage with, and I've done scenes with them, and it was always very forced. And then I had my buddy Rob. We won acting competitions when we were kids, going into it together, just because we had a very natural on-stage chemistry together. And I feel like that was kind of the case here. Was you had actors that were chosen for their great acting ability, but not necessarily the greatest on-screen matches.
Yeah, and maybe I might not be the best judge. You've done a lot more stage time. I'm more of a I wasn't a classically trained actor. I'm more of a, we used to have acting fights in the back alley. There'd be two gangs, and we'd have to settle some beef, and we would have monologuing competitions.
Did you dance?
Yeah, well, no, that was a different. No, we didn't do that. If it was Musical Monday, if we had to settle score on Musical Monday, sometimes we would dance.
Yeah.
But it depended on whether or not we could all get together on the choreography.
Rap battles?
I still have rap battles.
I would lose.
But no, again, like to me, I think probably the Amazing Spider-Man performance colored what I saw in this. I say for her, Anne Hathaway had the Selena Kyle Catwoman break done really well. She could go from one to the other like that. I just didn't buy it in between them.
Okay, fair enough, man. A couple things that bothered me, I think, was the completely I derailed myself in the mid-sentence.
You were thinking about going from Butler on the bike.
I was, The Dark Knight did indeed rise.
That's disturbing on a lot of levels.
Yeah, and I've also heard kind of the gripes about, she didn't have any point to have the goggles. She had the goggles. She flipped them up. They looked like the cat ears and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you have an issue with that, or?
I mean, not so much. I'm not.
Well, it's like, what if he did not put that in there? I mean, like, at least they served a practical use. You know what I mean? And that's the basic thing that Chris Nolan's movies he tries to slip in is just if it's gonna be something that's outlandish, let it at least have a practical application.
Yeah.
So you've got the Batmobile, which is something silly, but he makes it practical.
Yeah.
You had Bane's got the face mask. In the comic books, why? Well, he gave it a practical application. This was kind of the same thing. They're like, the goggles don't serve any specific purpose. Well, if he didn't put the cat ears in there, the goggles that flipped up and become the cat ears, people were gonna bitch.
Yeah.
So people were gonna bitch either way.
I think I had so much. I had so much of an issue with the pacing and the way that they kind of put the story together. Like, the minutia didn't bother me.
Yeah, it's little.
And I forgive that kind of stuff usually, because it's like the minutia never sticks with me. I'm like, well, like Greg McIver, who writes for us and did a review for YoungHollywood.com for the movie. He is adept at picking out things like that.
Yes.
He's very sharp. If you have a chance, go to www.NerdtopiaCast.com. We have like 3 or 4 reviews of this movie up.
Oh, yeah.
Eric and I did a point-counterpoint. She was very much on your end of things. She liked the big... And I kind of voiced my grievances. And McIver was able to point out some of the minutia that just did not work.
Mm-hmm.
And I agreed with that, but to an extent, it's like it didn't bother me compared to some of the things that they needed to hit in order for this movie to be a success. But... to me, again, if you ask me the next day, so how was Dark Knight? Like, it was good.
Yeah.
To me, again, I was expecting a crescendo, and it felt like a bookend.
So I think that's where you and I both kind of landed. Obviously, I appreciated it a little bit more than you did. Maybe I'm just more of a Batman fan. Maybe I just like Batman a little bit more, and that's okay, Steve. It's okay if you don't like Batman.
Let me ask you a few questions. I have some from one. Now, admittedly, you seem to be, I know you watch the animated series a lot, and I want to be somebody who understands those kind of things. So do you mind if maybe I ask you just a few questions about your experience about it? Because now I feel like we have to kind of discuss these things.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Steve.
So, like, all right. So, where, like, in the grand scheme of the movie lore,
yes.
like, we're all on this Batman ride together. And on this big ride, of this Bat journey, if you will. Where do you get off?
Well, that is a loaded question right there.
Yeah.
I'd say somewhere between, Batman expert and, actual fan.
Yeah.
Somewhere between there is where I get off.
Yeah. So, okay. And that makes sense. I think we all kind of find ourselves kind of there. But, you're somebody who, has such an extensive wealth of knowledge of Batman.
Here's a guy that's got knowledge of Batman.
He knows Batman. Pay attention. You got Robin coming up. You got a football game, right? A football. You're coming up the stadium, falling down. You got a column here, boom, hitting the ground. But yeah, all right. So that's that's something else. What gives you the right? All right, this will be a better bit later. We're gonna postpone this because I need to get a little passive aggressiveness out myself. But no, this is the great thing about movies and watching movies with your friends is you can agree to disagree on things like this. Again,
honestly, and I think it's actually good that we kind of had this back and forth here. And in all seriousness, there's joking and stuff involved, but I've heard, from other people, like I've discussed it with my coworkers, and there really seems to be kind of a line drawn amongst Batman fans. Yeah. Some people are over here with me, and some people are over there with you.
Yeah. I don't think anybody though to a person is pushed in either direction too far. No. Like I haven't heard of any. Well, I've heard of one person, but I'm not going to out that person. I've heard one person say it's better than The Dark Knight, and I have some umbrage with that, But I haven't heard anybody saying that it takes that kind of it hit that level, and I haven't heard anybody like pissed off about it. Yeah. So I think this kind of thing begats discourse, and all this stuff makes for a better movie. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having. I think that's again that's what these things are all about, and I think that kind of makes the culture in and of itself stronger, and we're probably gonna have another reboot soon, so we'll have something new to argue about.
If DC Comics really wants to do a new lead-in to a Justice League movie, like they're talking about doing, of course you can never really trust DC Comics because they love to make the announcements, man. They're like, we're gonna do this movie, and we're gonna do this. They only follow it through maybe 50% of the time.
Something just occurred to me. I put a few things together. All right, so this is speculation.
Sure.
I've heard nothing about this except I saw a fan photoshopped picture.
Okay.
What would you think about Joseph Gordon-Levitt coming out in a Nightwing movie?
I saw the picture as well. It's brilliantly photoshopped.
Yeah.
It is brilliantly photoshopped. I've got mixed feelings on it, man.
Because you have to put the story and everything in there.
Well, I don't see... The thing about it is you would be continuing Christopher Nolan's continuity, and I don't know that I want to see it messed with. Now, on that note, I feel like maybe if you pulled in characters from, like, the Nightwing mythos, because in the comic book...
He's got his own...
Dick Grayson, spoilers for those of you who don't know, like, at the end, the woman's like, why don't you use your real name? And he's... Robin, John Robin, or Robin John Blake, something like that. Yeah. I guess he went by his middle name or whatever. Which I was like, had my fingers crossed. I'm like, oh, say Dick Grayson, say Dick Grayson, and they didn't, and I was like, fuck. Yeah. But that's cool because in that respect, because Nolan always said, I'll never put Robin in the movie. Found a way to kind of slip him in there a little bit, which was kind of neat. And you kind of got to see his story arc where he's the defender, he's protector, becomes disenfranchised and stops defending Gotham so that he can defend Gotham.
Robin, stop defending Gotham so you can defend Gotham.
Old chum. No, but I maybe in the years to come, possibly I wouldn't mind seeing him don the cape and become Nightwing. I don't think I'd want to see him become Batman.
No. I think at this point you've said this is our Batman.
But a Nightwing movie, I'd get behind it. I don't know that Christopher Nolan would want anything to do with it. And then if you had another director pick it up, I just don't know that they'd do it justice.
Well, we'll see. We got Snyder on the Superman movie, so
Nolan's produced on the Superman movie too.
Yeah, and so with everything that's going on, I think they've kind of figured out a formula to tell these stories in a way that it can appeal to old audiences and new audiences, and still be cinematically viable.
So until they we see the reboot of Batman, which will probably be a little bit more based in the comic books as opposed to realism, we'll wait and see. But for now, that trilogy is done, and we're moving on to other comic book movies, man.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy coming up. We've got
Thor 2,
Thor
Captain
2.
America 2, the second phase in the Avengers. So, and then, like you said, Man of Steel coming next summer.
Before we get out, I just want to say that, I was such a big fan of the first Thor movie. But the second one, I really thought that they would do more on Comic-Con, and, it was just a trailer, and everything about it was really low-key. I didn't see, I thought that we could... I used that joke the last time,
You
didn't
did.
I? And it doesn't get old. It doesn't get old.
I was going to call you out on that.
No.
You used that one already,
No.
Steve.
It belongs in a museum.
So do you.
My bat was on that plane.
I want my parents back.
I want my childhood back.
I want my necklace back.
Harrison Ford is Batman.
Oh.
And the reboot, he just runs around, I want my parents back.
That could be, he would make it
So glad
great.
you can make it, Batman. I've stolen the ruby slippers. It belongs in a museum. Ruby slippers. Why the fuck did I put Oz in there all of a sudden? It's a crossover.
Wait a minute, Joker's a Nazi now?
And
it's
why not, sir?
Tapestries. No ticket. All right, let's get out of here.
All right, guys. Thanks for nerding out with us for NerdtopiaCast. I'm Doolin Dalton.
I'm Steve Wareham.
Good night, everybody.
Old chum.
Find more free nerdy funny at www.nerdtopiacast.com. I'm Bruce Wayne. Fuck!
And check us out on iTunes and Stitcher.